Welcome, everybody, to the Pura Vida podcast. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We have another episode this week that I'm very excited about. These podcasts have been great to connect with people who I love dearly and who have been part of the community here. We're located right next to Ernest Brew Works. We're in Toledo, Ohio, right off the trail in Detroit. And we aspire to be a very accessible and affordable yoga studio for anything that you need healing wise as well. So we have massage therapy, we have Reiki, we have meditation, we have sound healing. So anything that you need, we have for your healing and at a very accessible and affordable rate. I want to introduce our guest today, and our guest is Angela. Welcome to the podcast, Angela.
Thank you, Erica.
I'm so happy that you decided to come on today. It really brings me joy. You've been a member of the studio for a while, so that's how I know Angela. She's definitely been coming in and working on her yoga practice for a long time now. And today I want to talk about her journey into therapy. She's a licensed therapist and also her journey into yoga as well and how the two intertwine. So, Angela, will you please explain and or just share your journey into becoming a therapist?
Yeah, I would say the journey to becoming a therapist is kind of a long one, but at the same time, I've worked in the Toledo community for a long time, working with children and families that have been in crisis, and running after school programs and teaching at the YWCA
Mm.
in Toledo Public Schools. So, a lot of partners in the community. We've done a lot of service projects throughout the years. And the kids would always tell me, Miss Angela, you should become a counselor. You're so good at what you do. And they kind of already thought of me as a counselor, um, except for I drove them around and all that kind of stuff. So, we know counselors don't really do that unless they're in the community.
Right?
But so I doubted myself, I think at the time, like, could I really do this? And I was somewhere, this is kind of a silly story, but at the same time, it kind of reiterated to me that I could do it. I was somewhere like on a date at one point in time years ago before I got married, and there was a lady that was, I don't remember her name, thank God, because it doesn't matter. But she was very inebriated, and
Mm.
I was trying to caution her to not drive, and at the same time, in my life, I was contemplating what I wanted to do with my future, and the lady was, dead set on driving, and I was like, well, what do you do? Can you call like some family? I'm trying to be safe. And she's like, I'm a counselor. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, okay, well, all the more reason why you should probably call somebody. Anyways, I was driving home, long story short, I was driving home, and I'm like, you know what, I don't do that kind of stuff, and I think I could be a really good counselor. Not that counselors can't have their day where they're
Oh,
drinking and,
yeah,
doing the thing.
of
And
course.
it was just a pivotal moment for me where I was like, you know what? I don't know why I'm questioning. Like, it's almost like I put counselors at the time, like these like different beings, like up on a
Hmm.
pedestal. And I think in that life, in that story, it kind of reiterated to me that counselors were like just normal people, right?
Yeah.
And I had kind of put this barrier between myself and the career that people were saying I should do because I was so good at it. Um and then I questioned all my abilities. But anyways, from then on I made the decision to, okay, let me start looking into schools for counseling. Um and then I went to school, master's level, to do counseling. And I kind of fell into it because I was doing, like, kind of debating between social work, the master's in social work and the master's in clinical counseling. And they definitely said, if you do social work, you have to take chemistry. And I said, oh, heck no.
I don't blame you
I
there.
completely avoided that all through college. I took geology. I took natural disasters. I was like, I do not want to do chemistry.
No, I do
Um,
not blame you.
yeah. So I was like, okay, I guess counseling it is. And so I was sitting in there like the first day, and it's a small, I went to Spring Arbor, and at the time, I don't know what they do now, but at the time they had like a satellite office in Michigan, and right across the state line. So
Mm,
I started there every Tuesday night from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock. Um, and then they had some online classes and stuff. So with a great group of people who I'm still in contact with, most of them.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so it's pretty cool to see how we all grew and changed and the things that we did. But anyways, I was sitting in the first class and I was like, oh my gosh, this couldn't have been a more perfect fit. So even though I felt like I fell into it, I think the universe led me there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's an amazing like little roller coaster journey. It sounds like you had to go through your own personal counseling to become a counselor, and of course you did.
for
Um,
sure, for sure. And actually, when I was in there, that's when I mean, I had gone through counseling before, but I would say the majority in and out of my life. I don't know that I would say it was always a great experience. And I think um I also am a very insightful person. So I'm try to be aware of what I do, what I need to change. I'm not saying I'm perfect because it's hard to do that with yourself and no one's perfect. But
right.
so at the time I was really struggling with some things, and I asked the counselor that was the head of the group if she had any recommendations for me to do counseling.
Mm,
And I was like, okay, I tried a couple of different places. One was actually, I'm just going to mention this because it was so funny. I was like, okay, Angela, you're going to keep your mind open. So I went to Lourdes College, which they have a
mm,
great program there.
yeah.
There was like an older lady who was also had multiple professions. I don't want to put them out there because I don't know, I don't have her permission, but she introduced me to the tuning forks. So I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but like, okay, like I'm just gonna be open because she's older. She was older, like probably if I had to guess, probably like late 60s, early 70s. And I was like, she has some knowledge under her belt. So let me try some of the things she's saying. So I was introduced to some different healing modalities. And at that time, she mentioned to me something called heart math and asked me if I ever heard of it.
I've
And
I've heard of that.
yeah. So I didn't at the time, and I was like, I went to her a couple times, but eventually the age gap kind of like got, I feel like, in the way, but I appreciate so much the things that she kind of mentioned and taught me because it opened my brain and mind for the next phase of when I did meet a counselor that I connected with. Um she was younger, which I was kind of worried about that because my kids, I'm a little older, so I was like, oh, she's in her 20s, and like,
Yeah.
how is she going to help me, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But she was amazing, and she introduced me to EMDR, which I did as a client. And that I feel like was the very first counseling experience where I was like, okay, yes, like there's change, there's improvement besides thoughts or communication.
Mm,
So those automatic thoughts are really hard once they're ingrained in you to change on your
yeah.
own. And if you do, because I'm not going to say it's not impossible to do, because it is, because it happened to me at a period of time in my career. But this was way more powerful and way more I would say much needed for me to begin even more things that I thought I had healed in my past, that this actually did bring a change in my thought pattern and with my anxiety, with so many different things, and it totally changed my perspective. Um, and it continues to do so because I still go to therapy and I still do EMDR. Um, so it's
That's
pretty awesome. And
yeah.
so,
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like you I mean in the beginning it sounded like you had, some self-confidence issues with becoming a therapist or a counselor, and that's, rightfully so. I feel like we all probably go maybe through that to some extent. Some, I feel like it's definitely a scale of how maybe how confident you are. I'm sure there's a scale for everybody of starting something that you are passionate about and care about. Um, and I feel like I can relate for sure with coming into being a yoga teacher and doing sound healing. It's like the same, same thing. And it's beautiful to watch those mindset shifts happen. Um, and being like, oh, yeah, I don't have to be perfect and perform and do all the things that I think I have to do in my mind. It's like, um, I can just be human and try to serve the other person in front of me and try to help them feel better. And that's, and that's as much as it has to go. You don't have to be this perfect human being. And I love that story of the woman who was inebriated because, like that right there, it's just like, yep, we're human. We are so
yep.
human. And it's so funny that that kind of somewhat pushed you into, feeling a little bit more confident. And I have you ever seen the show Shrinking?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh my God, you have to watch it. You have to. It's about therapy
Oh, yes, I need
and
to watch it.
yes, those of you out here too that are listening, watch this show. It is seriously so good. It has Justin Siegel in it or whatever his name is. And he's a therapist, and at some point in his career he just starts being super blunt about everything. Like he's like, leave your effing husband, and
Oh
like
gosh.
he starts like saying those things, and it's such a funny, super lighthearted, awesome show. Like I really highly recommend it. But his first episode, he comes in to a session like from a night of being completely inebriated and it's funny. So it reminded me of that show. But
Yeah, and I think the other part that played a role in the confidence was, and I tell a lot of people this, and I think it's important for people to know. I kind of viewed like your education. I don't have anyone in my family that has a master's
oh
degree,
wow.
and so when I looked into doing it in my brain, it was like a highest, not the highest because PhD is the highest, but like it's a
Right.
very high level of education. So it's going to be so, so hard. And I'm
Right.
not saying it's not, you don't have to work for it and it's not challenging. But the thing about it that's very different compared to other college experience is it's focused on something that you're passionate about and that you like. And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore it becomes easier for you to do and it's so much more impactful. And then, which is so ironic, after I went through the graduation, which when you get your master's, they like hood you, which all was a very weird experience, but cool because I had my master's degree. But then after that, of all of the graduations I attended in my career, which is a lot of graduations for kids, did I ever understand the difference between all of the robes and the things that hang on people in their hats and what they mean?
No.
But I don't understand why it took that long for me to know that. Like, that should be knowledge that they're teaching us in school.
It should be. I don't know. I like, yeah, it really should be. I agree. I even like during my graduation, I got these like these chords and stuff, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, I don't
Yes.
know what this is. Like, but thanks.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, it's funny. So tell me about your how your perspective on mental health evolved over time. Mental health as, a general subject.
I would say that I've always known that mental health is important, and I kind of knew that counseling was a big part of it. But I think as I was slowly introduced to some different healing modalities like the tuning forks, because even though I didn't go to her anymore, that experience was interesting. I was very calm. It was
Yeah.
it was very cool. And then I would say seeing people when you're doing EMDR with somebody and you see how much the trauma has affected people's body, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you understand more as a clinician how important other modalities included in someone's life is way also important as therapy, if not
Yeah.
more important, to be honest with you. Even if someone isn't ready to walk through the doors of a counselor's office, they can start doing some of the things that are taught in yoga and some of the other things that will help calm their nervous system. Um, so I think my brother is the first one who introduced me into sound baths because he went to this lovely lady in Key West, Florida, who does her
Yeah.
own little sound baths. And they were like, "Hey, there's one right around the corner from where you live. You should go." And I was like, "Really? Where?" And then I found you. And I originally came to the yoga studio for a sound bath. And then I was like hooked. I was hooked. Sound healing is super powerful. And so since I was there, I decided let's try some yoga. Um, and so I don't think in the beginning when I started those practices, I realized how important they were connected to your mental health
Yeah.
until I started practicing them myself. And then I had these different emotional releases, these different notices and breathing and how I was
Hmm.
breathing every single day, how calm I felt, all of those things throughout my own journey with yoga and sound healing and some of the meditations and all the different things that I've experienced at your studio has even reiterated to me more how much it's connected to mental health and how much it can help somebody self regulate and learn different techniques to
Yeah.
release things that are stuck in your body.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like, your mental health perspective um has shifted in the way of, there's so many modalities out there. And I mean, you already started with sound healing with the lady with the tuning forks, but yeah, I can't speak enough on how much yoga has helped me be able to move things through my own body. And that is, that's same here. Yoga for me gets the energy in my body moving, and sound healing helps to heal that energy. And I I agree the way that, like, the first time I did a sound bath, that was the most calm I had ever felt in my entire life. And
Mhm.
like, I was shocked. I mean, I knew I loved music. I knew I loved, I'm a musician, but that sound healing, like the sound bath, I was just like completely blown away. I'd never experienced anything like that before, not only sound wise, but also within my body. And so I think that's honestly when my true mental health journey started as well. was through that, and eventually it evolved as into going to therapy and going to trauma therapy and doing EMDR and doing all these other things that, like, I feel like everything kind of, it's a wheel and all the spokes matter for mental health.
Yeah,
um
it's definitely a lot that is ingrained in it that I think they make it seem like it's a lot more complicated. And don't get me wrong, trauma's complicated, people are complicated, but at the same time, there's little everyday things that we can do that can help relax us, even if it's only a 3-minute meditation, or you're coming to the studio to wake up the studio, or you're doing the morning meditation, or you're doing a sound bath, or whether you're doing it in the studio or you're doing it at home, at least you're learning some of the skills so that you can utilize them in your everyday life.
Absolutely. You should come to my sound healing training and
I thought about it for sure.
add that modality into your therapy practice. That's awesome. How has yoga and, and the sound practice, but how has your yoga practice impacted your work? Like, when you're going to the office and you're sitting down to have a session with somebody, like, has yoga uh, come off the mat for you and
For
affect?
sure. For sure. Definitely. So I would say in the beginning, the yoga was, I also had that self-confidence thing going because I'm a bigger person. And I was like, oh my gosh, my teacher, the first teacher I went to at your studio is super tiny and super flexible. So I was like, there is no way I'm going to be able to do all the things. But she is amazing in making and teaching yoga, and you do not think about what you're doing, what you look like, what you're doing. It's more about the practice. And if it wasn't for probably that first class, her doing that so much, I probably would have, been super more scared to come back.
Yeah, for
um,
for sure.
but I definitely was like, okay, like I can do this, and got more confident. I would not say I'm a yoga expert, but I definitely have thought about also becoming a yoga instructor because
Oh,
of how much it impacts not just me personally, but how much I use the things that I've learned there with people in session, or telling them, hey, why don't you try this? Or hey, why don't you go to the yoga studio? I go to this one, you can go wherever, that kind of stuff. And just realizing how many more options are out there for people to heal. Because not everybody's ready to walk through a counselor's door and talk about things. And
right,
so, if you learn any coping skill, no matter what it is, as long as it's a healthy coping skill, I should say, which yoga is, sound healing is. And so, um, a lot of breathing and meditation techniques I've taken off the mat for sure. And just the everyday knowledge that you guys teach us when we're there about, like, this is a good way to get things stuck out of your body that are stuck in there, and how calming the nervous system is. Because even if someone feels like yoga is too much, if I can tell them how to do like a supported bridge so they can
mm-hmm.
bring down their nervous system, or
That
some of
has to be my all-time favorite
Mhm.
pose.
Mhm. Yep. And just knowing that there's other options out there to give people in between sessions, and know that there's things that they can do, that it isn't all up to the counselor, because it's really never up to the counselor. I'm
Right,
here to guide people through their journey that they want to have, and counseling should always be your choice. And if your counselor asks you to do something that you're not comfortable with, you should be able to say those things without feeling like you can't, no matter what it
right.
is, even if it's like, I need a different counselor. And I've heard so many horror stories about like what counselors tell people to do, and I don't operate like that. I feel like
Yeah,
I can suggest things to people, but I don't have to live their lives. And so
No,
it's really important to meet people where they are. And,
absolutely.
like it's probably that show you were talking about, Shrinking, is probably funny in the fact of maybe some counselors think that, like, you might want to leave your husband. But I would never tell someone to do that because I feel like that is the person's choice. If they're ready to do that, I'll help support them. But
Yeah,
um
sorry, I got a call.
oh, it's
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely, assume that that's like one of the most blunt things that somebody could
I
say to
know. I could
somebody.
totally like see that being like the back chatter, which we really don't have very often because when we leave work, we want to leave work at work and we don't want to talk about
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
So that's
No.
why yoga is just so amazing. When I leave work, I can come to yoga and um in the days that I can come at night and just bring myself down from a day of work. So personally, it really helps calm my nervous system from all the things that I hear throughout the day and kind of try to help and absorb and different things like that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that for you. It is so important and so powerful to do that at the end of the day. And as a yoga instructor, that is our goal, honestly. I mean, that's my goal. It's just okay, and now how can I make this person feel better? Really at the end of the day, that's all the major goal is. And yeah, calming the nervous system obviously helps you feel better. And yoga definitely, it's amazing, amazing, amazing the people who come through this studio and find out what yoga is doing for them and how it will impact their health mentally, physically, and emotionally. I think you would be an amazing yoga instructor. That would be awesome if you got your yoga teacher training or yoga teacher certification.
Yeah.
Um,
It flew out my mouth one day and I was like, okay, the universe doesn't do that for no reason.
no, it sure doesn't. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Um, so are there any misconceptions that you think people have about therapy?
um, I think there is misconceptions based on um people's experiences, unfortunately. And I say that because also let's give grace with different fields, including the counseling field and therapy field, as that they did what they did when they started because that's what they knew. And as you grow and change, just like any human being or any like practice of any profession, you learn different things. So I don't want to like slam that, but mental health and counseling has come so far from back in the old days where they would lock people up and all that crazy stuff that used to happen. So the misconceptions though is I would say if you're not comfortable with your counselor, give them a couple of sessions, and if you're not, like then ask for a different counselor so you're not in there, like wasting time for your healing journey. And if the person, your counselor, whoever it is, should never be offended because we just click with different people. And it doesn't say anything about you as a human being. It just is about the person and what they're ready to do. And everybody has a different style and a different way that they communicate. They all have a different energy that they give off. And so those are the things that you should be paying attention to. And I try to reiterate that when coming into counseling. Um, I think, the if you want advice, you can ask for advice, but really what we do is listen and try to help
Yeah.
you heal. And the advice is going to be more based on like different ways to help you heal versus what to do in your life because the decision is up to you as to
Yeah.
steps that you take. So the goal is to empower you to make those decisions, whatever they need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's I'm sure you can look at yourself and watch the ways you've grown. And I know I can too as a yoga teacher as well. I can look at myself and be like, wow, I used to teach like this and now I teach
Yeah.
like this because I'm more aware of things and not only inside my body, but inside of what might be happening in others' bodies. And once your awareness gets deeper and deeper, I feel like, you automatically make these shifts and there's no right or wrong. Maybe just sometimes um looking back at those moments, just having compassion on where people are in their journey. Like you said, everybody is somewhere in their own journey, and all we can do is listen and have compassion. And I love that. So what advice would you give maybe to someone who's struggling with anxiety, with stress, with trauma, etc., who might be considering yoga and or counseling?
Yeah, I would tell them first yoga, find a place that you feel comfortable going to, try it out. It's always scary. Something new is always a little bit scary. Um,
Absolutely.
and once you like I had no idea how many yoga studios there is in Toledo. Like I
I
had no
know.
idea. And you guys all kind of like respect each other and communicate sometimes and share the same ideology. And if you say to somebody like, yeah, I go to Pure Vita, they're like, oh, awesome. Like, they're not like, oh, come to our yoga studio, like.
Right.
So I like that. I like that part about the community, but just giving yourself the to go, it's kind of like counselors, like go where try a couple of different ones, see where you feel like you fit the most. I was also introduced to another yoga studio who's since closed, but through work. So that was cool too. I mean, that
Yeah.
also slowly introduced me into some of the meditation practices and what the inside of a yoga studio may look like and how different it is. So, anxiety, depression, all of even PTSD and trauma, like just learning how to pay attention to your body. Because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes when we're traumatized, we learn to ignore things because we have to survive. And I think, it's scary to think about paying attention to your body for some people, but when you start paying attention to your body and how you breathe and how you move and how it can release things, it's not so scary anymore. So even if you're not ready to talk about it, it introduces you to staying in the moment, which is so helpful for people that have anxiety and PTSD and things like that, because oftentimes they're worrying about the past or the future. And
Yeah.
both of those things we really can't do anything about other than stay in the present moment.
Right. No, we really can't. Yeah, I love that. And I feel like therapy has helped me immensely with that as well. I mean, of course, the practice of yoga, that's what it teaches, but therapy, working one-on-one with a therapist or a counselor is another powerful way to learn how to work within the present moment, be within the present moment,
Mhm.
stay grounded. There's so many tools that intertwine between yoga and counseling and therapy. Um, I feel like it's a very interrelated practice. Both of them are,
For
and
sure.
yeah. So I think that's really amazing. That's another reason I wanted to have you on the podcast because I knew um it's just a no-brainer. They just click together, they just go together. And of course you've been in our studio as well, and I we do like we will say, if this is not your place, then find your place, because wherever you feel comfortable is where you're going to heal, and that's the most important thing. um Nobody is for everybody, right? Nobody is for.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with counseling. Like, granted, you have to give somebody a chance,
Of
but at the
course.
same time, if you've gone there 3 or 4 times and you're just like, I don't know what it is, I'm just not vibing with this person, find a different counselor. But you also have to look at your insurance, and
Yeah.
where they allow you to go. And that unfortunately, as we all know in the medical field, like that plays a role into where we choose services and stuff like that. So that's important. But the healing modality that they use, oftentimes people are unaware of, and sometimes they're aware of. So, like for me, it's EMDR. I'm also getting trained in something called brain spotting, which is
Mm.
really helpful for healing developmental trauma. Um, and then, like I said, some of the other healing modalities, which I feel like also coincide so much more, like, yoga and sound healing. Um,
What
and
is brain spotting? Maybe someone out there is interested.
so it's a technique where you utilize your eyes, and they have learned, because I'm not an expert in it and I also haven't been trained in it yet. So what I saw is that if you look a certain way, you can deal with different things that come up in your body and feelings. And so originally, like, I EMDR is eye movements. That's what the EM stands for. And they found out there's other ways to do EMDR with bilateral stimulation. So brain spotting, I think, is like a spin-off of it, or you can definitely use them in conjunction. And the reason why those modalities stand out to me is because for me personally, that was the only thing that brought a change. Like, talking about things sometimes is helpful, but it just for me wasn't what I needed to heal. And so because it was so powerful for me is why I got trained in it, because I I would like to see people utilize it as young as they possibly can and not be in their 40s. Like me, when I first did EMDR, I wish I would have done it years ago, but I didn't know anything about it. And to be honest, the universe works in weird ways. So who knows if I would have been ready to take that step back when I was in my 20s. But the fact that it's out there and it's a different healing modality that people aren't really aware of, or if they are aware of, they don't know about it. So I would say always ask questions, do research, talk to
Abs-
different people, because there's some people that love like yoga and some people that don't. There's some people that love EMDR and there's some people that don't.
yeah.
So all of it's okay, but at least like know that there's something out there other than talk therapy.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, absolutely. I feel like, and maybe too, if you're in one modality and you feel like you needed something a little extra, it's like, okay, well, let's add something or take something away,
Mhm.
and it's all a learning journey and a learning curve, really.
Yeah.
And I feel like it evolves over time. As you evolve, you need something different, maybe like brain
Yeah.
spotting or EMDR. But yeah, I love that. I love that that's next for you in your professional journey. Do you have anything like what else is next for you in your professional journey and or your personal journey?
Well, I think the sound healing, yoga, I've done some yoga retreats. Those are also very fun. So I know Pure Vita does some. I have gone on a few different ones and those are amazing. I have one coming up in October. Um,
Ooh.
I did open my own practice, but I do it a couple days a week and I also work somewhere else that where there's psychiatrists. So both kind of work for me. So definitely I do, like, you can find me at those places, or definitely you can always ask questions. I know Pure Vita and me are looking to possibly do some other things in collaboration. So my card is always at the studio too. So if anyone ever has any questions, there's been a couple of people who have picked it up and called. So that's amazing. Because even if you don't want to see me in particular, or you talk to me and you're like, I don't know. Like, at least I can connect you to other people that know, like, different modalities of therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, do you want to share, can you share where you are so that people can find you and connect with you?
Yeah, we are in for the past year and a half, we've been at Indian Wood Circle at 1715 Indian Wood Circle, Suite 200 in Maumee. And I have a website. It's healingourpastenergy.com, which that's what I thought was really cool is the name, because it is
I love that name.
our past things that kind of sometimes get in the way, but also it's my daughter's name is Hope. So it stands for hers. And then my son, who's also very important, my license date is his birthday. So
Oh, I love that they're so intertwined.
yeah, and the universe did that too.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah, of course it did. Yeah, so I should have put my phone on do not disturb. So that's how you can connect with Angela. She does have her cards here at the studio if you want to pick one up. Um, and healing our past energy. I love that so much. And I love that it's the acronym HOPE, and that's your daughter's name. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I will make sure to put your website link in the show notes to this show so that people can click on that and find you. Um, but thank you so much. Do you have any final piece of advice or wisdom for the listeners?
I would say remember change takes time, and very small micro changes are very important. We kind of overlook that, and we kind of get in these modes of like we have to change all the things now, and it becomes very overwhelming. So if your first step in your healing journey is a sound bath, let it be a sound bath. If it's walking through a counselor's door, great. If it's going to a yoga class, great. If it's going for a walk, that's amazing. If it's getting a dog, get a dog if you can take care of it. Like,
Dogs are
just
medicine.
do something that is going to move you towards healing,
Yeah,
whatever needs to be healed.
I love that. And I love the incremental thing. I know for me, that's, sometimes with trauma, we think everything is all or nothing and
Mhm.
everything is black and white. But I myself am working on those incremental steps, one thing at a time, and change is very micro, and it's not a macro thing. It really does happen over time. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to wrap our brain around that. And when our brain wants something right now, um, so yeah, thank you for giving that last piece of wisdom. So powerful. Thank you too for being on the podcast. And listeners, I invite you to share this episode with somebody who may need it. Subscribe to the show and engage. Leave a comment, write a review, like the show. I want to mention really quick before we end, we have a sound healing training here coming up at Pura Vida Wellness Studio. And this has been a long time coming for me. It's been 4 years in the making, and I'm very, very excited to announce that it's launched. It'll be happening here in April. You can join in person or online. We'll be doing the training simultaneously. So it's like you'll be here in the room with us, even if you're out there online. If you're not in Toledo and you want to join the training, I am going to be teaching all about the history of sound healing, the science behind it, a lot of things that we talked about in this episode as well, how it affects the nervous system, how it affects the brain, the body. And I'm just so, so, so excited. So if you are a person who wants to host your own sound baths or have your own personal sound healing business, I highly recommend that you come join the training. The people who have already signed up, it's a good group, so this is going to be a fun one in April. And again, we are Pure Vita Wellness Studio, located right next to Ernest Brewworks. And we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Erica.